Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ag View Pitch. Today, we're going to have a brief conversation here with Paul Neiffer on the economics of 45Z. If there's anything there, Paul, how's it going today?
Well, it's going actually pretty good. I probably should tell everybody, not that anybody cares, but today is my birthday and I turned
Oh,
Medicare age. So, that's, one of those, I guess, you know,
double-edged sword.
double-edged sword, So matter of fact, I paid my premium, I think, yesterday. So, my premium for February. So,
Nice. Well,
but,
happy birthday. Maybe
well,
everybody can in the YouTube notes, they can send you a happy birthday. Wish
They can skip sending me the happy birthday. I'm not one of those
you don't
guys that needs to get 100
you,
birthdays on Facebook or
you don't
anything.
you don't
So
need the love, huh?
no, I don't need the love. I do not need the love. So
Yeah,
it
that's all right. That's
has nothing to do with 45Z, but
yeah. Well,
it's
maybe you want some sympathy cards. You're getting older, so
hey, I'm gonna go play pickleball. So hey,
yeah, yeah.
that's okay.
Well, stay young, stay young. That's the
I
key.
will. I will.
So, all right. Well, let's hit some topics here on the 45Z. USDA put out that guidance here last week, and just thought, talking to you that maybe we could get some updates on it. What does it mean? Is there anything there that
Yes.
is meaningful, at least in the short term, and what do we need to be watching for?
Yeah, so we remember back about not quite a year ago, or actually the IRS had come out with some guidance and indicated that for the old what we call Section 40B, which expired at the end of last year, that the ethanol plant or the biofuel producer, let's call it the biofuel producer, could get a credit based on the fact that the farmer had done three practices for corn. They had done no-till, which includes strip till in some cases. So no-till, and then a cover crop, and then it's enhanced efficiency fertilizer or nitrogen. So, or nitrogen inhibitor, et cetera. But you had to do all three. And hardly any farmers really were doing all three. So what the guidance was that came out last week, or depending on when you're listening to, so it would be last week probably, indicated, hey, we're going to now score your field or score your county based on whether you're doing what's called reduced tillage, no-till tillage, cover crops, and then enhanced nitrogen. Of course, for soybeans, you don't have to do the enhanced nitrogen because typically you're not applying nitrogen. So you're not locked into doing all three. You're allowed to do one, and based on that one, let's say you elect to do no-till, based on electing to do no-till, that's going to equate to some type of cents per gallon or cents per bushel, let's say cents per bushel for the biofuel producer, which then might be willing, unless under the word might be willing to pay part of that down to the farmer. So, and what I did is I went through and I ran some numbers for actually, you'll probably get a kick out of this, Chris. I ran some for Buchanan County, Iowa, which is
Huh.
where you're at and my
Yep.
field is at. Then I ran it for Dade County, Missouri, which is where my Missouri farm is at. And then I wanted to run one for farther north. I didn't do Washington State. I could have done Walla Walla maybe because they do grow corn, but they don't grow soybeans there very much. So I did one for Brown County, South Dakota, which is where Aberdeen, South Dakota, basically. And the interesting thing is the farther south. Now, this is just based on these three counties. The farther south you are, the more benefit you get. The
Mhm.
farther north you go, the benefit starts to get reduced. And so, just to give you an example, and again, these are rounded numbers, they could be off a little bit. If you did reduce tillage in Missouri, you would get 20 potential of 20 cents per bushel of benefit. Now, that's not for you, that's for the total benefit. And again, you
And
got the
that's on corn.
biofuel producer, and then you're going to have the elevator that might be storing your grain, and then you're going to have you. So, and then you're going to have it certified and audited and verified. So, probably as a farmer, whenever I share a number with you, divide it by three. At the best, you're probably going to get 1/3 of the number I'm telling you. So just
And the
divide it by three.
and the 20 cents, is that on corn? Or
That's on corn. So we're talking about corn right now.
yep.
So So in Missouri, you'd get 20 cents. In Iowa, you get 11 cents. Actually, in South Dakota, you get 13 cents. Now, when we jump up to no-till, then you start seeing a pretty big jump. In Missouri, you'd get $1 per bushel for no-till tillage, and then 51 cents in Iowa, 44 cents in South Dakota. And that sort of makes sense to me because I've been to my farm in Missouri multiple times. No-till, I'm going to say, based on the soil type and everything going on down there, it's going to be much more difficult to do true no-till down there than versus the farm there in Iowa or maybe in South Dakota, just because of the clay and everything going on down in Missouri. Now, I may be wrong. Now, when we drop down to cover crops, the value of cover crop in Missouri is like 88 cents per bushel, but for Iowa and South Dakota, it's about 30 cents. It drops quite a bit. And then for the enhanced, whatever you want to call it, the enhanced fertilizer, it's about 30 cents in Missouri and about 17 cents in Iowa, and then 11 cents in South Dakota. And then finally, if you do all three, you do no-till, you do cover crops, you do enhanced fertilizer. In Missouri, the potential is $2.25 per bushel. So even if you divided that by 3, that's 75 cents. That's not bad. But in Iowa, it's $1.05, so that'd be 35 cents. And then in South Dakota, it's about 90 cents. So yeah, certainly no-till. If no-till is going to give you the same yield and is going to save you money because you're not going through the field 2 or 3 times, you're saving on fuel and so on, and you're able to get an extra 20 or 30 or 40 cents, probably a good deal. Now on cover crops, I know people have tried cover crops. In some areas it works well, other areas maybe not so well. You have to decide, if you're going to get an extra 20 cents for a cover crop and it costs you 20 cents, maybe it's not worth it. So those are the numbers that I saw on corn. We'll talk about soybeans here in a second, but any comments you have on that, Chris, as far as what you're seeing or anything that jumps out at you?
Yeah, a couple of things. I guess is the reduced till, is that like strip till or like a VT pass or something, or what's
Okay,
the definition of this?
good question. Let's go over to that. So you have to look at your stir rating. And the stir rating, hold on a second here, that stands for soil tillage intensity rating. It's from, I think, I guess there's an updated one in 2023. So the stir rating is basically, and I'm looking at the sheet right here, it's based on what is your speed, what is the recommended speed from the
Implement.
manufacturer.
Hmm.
It's then what is the type of tillage, strip till, plow. Plow's not going to qualify automatically. If you're
Hmm.
plowing the soil, you don't even qualify for reduced tillage. And then what's the depth? Is it 1 inch, 3 inch, 5 inch, whatever it might be? And then what's the type of surface disturbance? So just as an example, they have 2 examples in here. They show if you're doing a tandem light finishing disc, then at 5 mile an hour speed, then your stir rating is 19.5. So if you're only passed through the field is a disc, of course, then you're going to have to plant it. So I'm not sure if the planter is then part of it. But that 19.5, that's a key number because if your stir rating for all your tillage is less than 20, it qualifies as no-till. If your stir rating is over 20 but less than 200, then it qualifies for reduced tillage. So you have to look at that stir rating to find out what it is. Now, under the 40B guidance, it said strip tillage would qualify. I'm just not sure. What's your normal depth when you're doing strip till, Chris?
It varies, if it's in the spring or in the fall. So there's a seasonal component to it, and then whether or not you have a knife. The guys that are running knives are usually, anywhere from 5 to 7 probably, and
Yeah.
with a
I think Strip tillage that deep is going to be difficult to qualify as no-till, just
Hmm.
because well, but your speed, what's the typical speed?
6,
Six.
probably on
So
average.
yeah, so six times the speed, and so yeah, I think you're going to easily be over 20. So I don't think strip till is going to count. Now I may be wrong. I'm just saying you have to look at that stir, and there is no. I couldn't find a table of all the types of tillage and what the stir rating is, and that probably is true because some speeds are different than other speeds. So, but that's what you're looking at.
It'll be
So
interesting because with the strip till, some guys are putting nitrogen down or P and K, and you're putting that at the at just below the root zone, and I would think that'd have a lot of economic value because you're not stratifying the the
yeah.
fertility and stuff. So I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
but we're
It's
gonna
hard
do
to know,
whatever they
so
say.
we'll find.
Yeah.
And again, this is just initial guidance. We still have to figure out what's going on. So,
I I do have another question, or I don't know,
okay,
maybe the comment, but to your point on the cover crops, in our observation, see the exact same thing that you're talking about. I mean, how they're paying out. It's really hard to do cover crops when you like if you use the the south line of Iowa and the north line of Iowa. Iowa is kind of the transition if you do a
yep,
line all the way around, at that geography all the way across the Corn Belt. You go
yeah,
south of that line, south of say I-80. It's a pretty good deal. It works really good. You get north of say, you get up around I-90 and north, it is
it's
really tough
yeah,
because the ground's froze. It's pretty damn
yeah,
hard to get anything, by the
the,
time you get done harvesting, even trying to interseed or anything, just with harvest dates and stuff, you're going to get a hit and miss at best. You might
yeah,
have a
yeah.
year or two that it works, but a lot of years it's not gonna. So I think
Yeah,
some of
maybe
that
with
stuff.
a drone, maybe you have some drones, you can go out there and fly it on in September or August or something, let it start coming up. Maybe
And half the time that stuff doesn't take anyway. So I mean,
no,
it's just
no,
it sometimes things look good on paper, and then when practical applications have to come
yeah.
around, it's like, well, that didn't work very good.
Well, and the other thing that you have to realize, and I already deal with a lot of entities being formed just because of FSA payment limits and all that stuff. If let's say you farm 5,000 or 3,000 acres and 1,500 acres you're doing no-till, and the other 1,500 acres, for whatever reason, you have to do conventional till because of the type of soil or whatever it might be, you have to do a weighted average for this calculation. So for those 1,500 acres that you might be qualifying for $1 per bushel, in total, again, 30 cents to you, but then your other 1,500 acres don't qualify, that means you're really only going to be paid 15 cents. So does that mean then that the farmer, to take advantage of this program, is going to set up another entity that will strictly farm the fields? Because this is a field by field calculation. You have to do this calculation on every single field that you have with FSA. So then you do that field calculation and you decide this year my 45Z farm is going to farm these 17 fields and my regular farm is going to farm the other 32 fields. Talk about a pain. Talk
Mm.
about the record keeping because you have to maintain massive amounts of records that some farmers probably are already maintaining maybe 60% of these records, 70% of these records. But then on top of it, you have to maintain more records. And then you're not automatically subject to an audit, but you're likely going to be subject to an audit at least every 2 or 3 years. And that means somebody like me is going to come in and look at all your records, look at all your verification. And if they don't like what you did, boop, you're going to have to pay the credit back or
Fun,
you pay your bonus back.
fun.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. And
So
farmers really love record keeping. We know that, Chris. They're very
yeah,
good at it and that's their favorite thing to do.
yeah, exactly. Not so much, but I would say though one thing about it is the technology,
Yeah.
in the equipment anymore. You know,
Yep.
like your nitrogen and all that stuff. You're gonna have all that data.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of accumulating it in the proper format as a
Yeah.
report. that
Yeah,
meet the
exactly.
criteria. That's really going to be more of the issue, I think. But
Yeah, yeah.
I think the raw data isn't going to be that hard. But I guess a couple of things, questions maybe from a 30,000 foot view is how practical is this? We've got a new administration coming in this week. As we
That,
record this, we're recording this on the weekend before the inauguration of
yeah,
President Trump. His administration's not super enthused with all this green stuff
yeah,
that he calls the green scam. And so,
yeah.
you know,
45Z is already on one of their list of things that they can chop to save money.
right.
So,
And so, if that's chopped, is there anything else or are there any components of it that are viable or something that makes sense? And is it correlated to this, the SAF, if the sustainable aviation fuel and that kind of thing, does this have any correlation to that directly, or will that
yes.
be?
So the 45Z on the SAF side, I was talking about when I said 6 cents per bushel per point. So if you're able to get so how the 45Z works is at the biofuel producer level, once their emissions drop below 50 kilograms of CO2 per million BTU. So, I mean, that's a mouthful. So once it drops below that level, then they start qualifying for regular biofuel for a 6 cent per gallon credit or 6 cent per bushel credit. I'm going to keep it in bushels because there's about 3 gallons per bushel. But if it's SAF, you actually get a 75% bonus on top of that. So instead of qualifying for about 6 cents per bushel, you would qualify for a little bit over 10 cents per bushel. So the SAF side is better for the farmer. However, if you're supplying your corn to the ethanol plant, the ethanol plant may not be doing the SAF. So then that ethanol plant is then transferring it over to the SAF plant because they have to do some different, they have to blend it probably or do something that, so that plant is then qualifying for the credit, which then will pay down the ethanol plant and pay down to the farmers. So the farmer doesn't get a credit. The only way the farmer is able to participate in this credit is via the ethanol or the biofuel plant actually paying them an extra premium for their corn or for their soybeans or for their sorghum.
The other interesting thing's going to be like, some of our corn goes to a wet mill or it goes to like food grade and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we've got stuff going, in our
Yeah.
operation going to food grade and wet mill stuff. I mean, there's nothing there for that stuff, right?
No. This has to be purely for biofuel. I mean, it has to be able to go into some type of transportation. So whether it's a automobile, a truck, or whatever it might be, a tractor, semi, or SAF.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
So I want to get your, as we get close to wrapping up here, I want to get your 2 cents on, if you put your open up your crystal ball or put that out in front of you and ask it, what of this comes out of anything? If it does show up, it's probably a 2026 thing before.
I I think potentially there might be some pilot programs in 2025 where, because again, if you if you didn't plant a cover crop in 24, you don't qualify for your 25, you don't get the cover crop anyway.
What
The
about
no-till,
like strip till or no
yeah.
till
No-till, you
or
probably could qualify, and that's a decent amount. But again, we still are waiting for really good guidance. I think at best for the farmer, this is going to be a 26 item. And again, as you said, Trump may just it's gone. The Republicans may just eliminate it anyway. So we're going to have a lot of turmoil on this in 2025. Matter of fact, the administration was supposed to have this guidance out in 2024. The law said thou shalt have guidance by December 31. And of course, they didn't care,
Mhm.
which is, well, we won't get started down that rabbit hole. Now, let me just finish with the soybean side because it is a little bit, when you look at the numbers originally, you think it's better. But remember, we have to really convert this to per acre. And so your soybeans at best are typically what, 1/3 of a corn crop, at least on a per bushel. So I'm going to give you per bushel numbers. But remember, if you're getting $1 per bushel for corn, you have to have at least $3 per bushel for soybeans to be equivalent on a per acre basis, is what I'm saying. So again, reduced tillage in Missouri is about 33 cents per bushel. Iowa's 18 cents and South Dakota's 22 cents. Now, if we're able to do no-till, that's $1.60 per bushel in Missouri, 90 cents in Iowa, and then 79 cents in South Dakota. Cover crop is actually the biggest benefit, 245 in Missouri, 85 cents in Iowa, and then $1 in South Dakota. And again, you're getting up almost to the North Dakota border, getting a good cover crop in, who knows? And then overall, if you do all of them, do it in cover crop and no-till, because remember, we don't have the nitrogen fertilizer here. It's 426 in Missouri, $1.93 in Iowa, and then 201. So about $2 a bushel for Iowa and South Dakota, and $4 a bushel for Missouri. But again, if you did that on a per acre basis, that's it's not going to be as good. So $2 in per corn per bushel versus $4 for beans, you're still better off with corn, is what I'm saying, because that's equivalent of $6 for soybeans, essentially.
Right. Interesting. Well, I guess time will tell what's going to happen here. We're gonna find out, I guess. And the other thing too is I think some of this stuff is good, some of this stuff not so much. And I think, just from what I've heard from producers having some of these conversations, a lot of times producers don't like to be told how to farm either.
Yep.
On the
Yeah.
same on
Yeah.
the same token, there's a lot of people doing a lot of this stuff anyway.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, it's probably there's probably a balance in there somewhere to figure out. And then I think that, this renewable fuel thing is really the big deal for the producers because we need the demand somewhere. I mean, that's
Yep.
big,
Yep.
that's really the big issue. And,
And that's a mandate, which is good. I mean, that's
right,
that's 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 why we're able to get the premium, is we're mandated to have a certain amount of ethanol. And then also, you know, all they did was these three type or four types of practices. We thought, and they have it in, and there is a calculator for, so those that are interested, there is a calculator so you can plug in your state, your county, and then your type of practice that you do. They have in there that you can plug in your yield, but as of right now, the yield does not change the value. And our understanding is, if you're a farmer and your base yield, let's say, is 200 bushels per acre, but you produce 250 bushels per acre, you should get a premium for that because you've amortized that CO2, the tillage that you did, you amortized it over more bushels.
right.
So you should get
More
a
efficient.
premium. If you only produce 150 bushels, you should get a discount. But so far, that calculator does not have that in there. So we would think at some point in time, they would have um, an update on that. Also, it doesn't matter how much fertilizer you put on. So if you put on 200 units or 250 units or 300 units or 100 units, no difference. And then there's no benefit right now for applying manure. You would think manure is a byproduct of the animal. It would be a whole lot better than fossil fuel fertilizer, whatever it
Mhm.
might be.
Right.
So we're still, they still got a long ways to go. I mean, it took them this long to get this. So, this credit technically is supposed to expire by December 31 of 2027. I think that's when we'll get the final guidance, is like January 15th of 28. So
Got a little ways to wait on that
yeah,
then.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm being facetious, but
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
by much.
Yeah.
Not by
Right.
much.
Well, and the big thing here is, and I'll steal the term from one of our clients, and actually who farms in Aberdeen, North Dakota. He made a comment at TPAP a couple weeks ago that, there's the black swan, but now we have the orange swan, and so we don't really know exactly what might happen here, and so
Yeah, yeah.
we're gonna find out.
Yeah.
Time goes
So
on.
I think the bottom line is farmers really don't need to do anything right now. You know, they may want to start documenting their practices a little bit more formally, just in
Mhm.
case, like you said, Chris, the data's there. They may just want to take their data and actually put it in a format, that allows them maybe to go to that ethanol producer and say, hey, look, based on this calculator, I have pretty good score. And you can actually go negative, on the Missouri scores when
Mhm.
you factor in no-till and cover
Oh,
crops, my score definitely goes negative.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's that difference between your positive and the negative. You get to add the two numbers together. So it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. I think there's another reason for tracking a lot of that stuff too, is there's an economic component to it too, to
Yep.
measure the benefits from an
Yep.
economic standpoint. If, we don't really, none of us really like relying on the government, nor do we like the government telling us what to do either way. But a lot of these practices, if we just do it for our own reasons and for our own benefit and for our own data, that
Yeah.
data will help us. And then if something comes along, to me, that's kind of the reason for doing it, is just, the economic piece of it. But
Yeah. Totally agree. Totally agree.
so, all right. Well, hey, Paul, it's been a good conversation. Gives us something to think about and something to look forward to, and then we'll see what Trump has to say about some of this stuff along the way too.
And by the time we are in Florida next week, we may have some good ideas of what he may be saying by
Yeah,
then.
exactly. It'll be interesting. So yeah, we'll be at our AgView Executive Business Conference for the 2025 year ahead, and looking forward to having you guys there, and a bunch of you guys that are listening will probably be down there as well. So looking forward to it. With that said, thanks a lot, Paul. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks, Chris.
You bet. And thanks everybody for listening. And we will catch you again next time on the AgView Pitch.